You think you're tough? Huh? Modern life's got you dodging Wi-Fi outages and overpriced coffee, but could you hack it in ancient Greece? Spoiler, you'd be crying for your mommy by lunch. This ain't no toga party with Netflix and chill. Ancient Greece was a sweaty, smelly, sandal-slapping nightmare where your soft 21st century ass would get chewed up faster than a gyro at a food truck. Let's break down why you wouldn't survive a single day in 5th century BCE Athens. Buckle up, it's gonna be a wild, olive-oiled ride. First off, the moment you wake up, you're not in your cozy memory foam bed. Nah, you're on a straw mat that smells like goat piss and your blanket's a scratchy wool rag. The air's thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and yesterday's fish stew. No deodorant, no air freshener, just pure, unfiltered funk. You stumble outside, hoping for a Starbucks. But surprise! Your breakfast is a hunk of stale bread and some questionable cheese that's been sitting out since Socrates was a toddler. Water? Ha! You're sipping from a clay jug that's probably got more bacteria than a porta potty at a music festival. And don't even think about coffee. Caffeine's a myth here. You're running on vibes and existential dread. Now let's talk hygiene. You're dreaming of a hot shower, but the best you get is a cold splash from a bucket some dude filled at the river. Soap? Maybe a lump of olive oil mixed with ash if you're fancy. Your teeth? They're staying fuzzy, buddy. No Crest, no Colgate, just a twig and a prayer. By 9 a.m., you're sweaty, sticky, and smelling like a gym locker room. And the bathroom situation? Oh, honey, brace yourself. No TP, no flush valves. You're squatting over a communal latrine, wiping with a sponge on a stick that's been shared. Yeah, you heard me. A communal ass sponge. Try not to gag. Meanwhile, the streets are a chaotic mess. Donkeys are shitting everywhere, merchants are screaming about their overpriced figs, and some philosopher's yammering about the meaning of life while picking his nose. You're dodging mud, manure, and the occasional stray dog that looks like it's plotting your demise. This is just the morning, folks. We haven't even gotten to the politics, the gods, or the fact that your modern immune system is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Stick around, because ancient Greece is about to school you harder than a Spartan drill sergeant. So, you've survived the morning without contracting dysentery or getting trampled by a donkey. Congrats, you're basically a Greek god now, except not, because the actual gods are a whole other problem. In ancient Greece, Zeus and his divine posse are always watching, and they're pettier than a reality TV star with a grudge. You can't just live your life. You've got to keep these celestial drama queens happy, or they'll smite your ass with a lightning bolt or turn you into a cow. Fun, right? Let's say you're strolling through Athens, trying not to step in donkey crap when you pass a temple. You're supposed to stop, bow, maybe toss some barley or a goat's thigh bone as an offering. But you, modern genius, forget because you're too busy missing your iPhone. Big mistake. Some priest with a beard longer than a CVS receipt spots you and starts yelling about blasphemy. Next thing you know, the whole agora's whispering that you've pissed off Athena and now your crops are gonna fail, your kids will be born with 3 eyes, and your dick's gonna fall off. Yeah, they believed in that kind of divine pettiness. And it's not just one god. UVE got a dozen Olympians, plus a million minor deities for every rock, tree, and fart in the wind. Forget to pray to Hestia before lighting your fire? Boom, your house burns down. Sneeze near Poseidon's shrine? Tsunami, baby. You're constantly tiptoeing around invisible landmines, hoping you don't accidentally offend the god of wine by spilling your cup. Speaking of wine, let's talk about the food. Lunch is more stale bread, some olives that taste like regret, and wine so sour it could strip paint. No utensils, just your grubby hands, which haven't been properly washed since you arrived. You're chugging this vinegar juice from a communal cup, praying it's not laced with whatever plague is going around. And don't get comfy, because now it's time to deal with the locals. Athenians love arguingits like their cardio. You say something dumb like, maybe the earth isn't flat, and suddenly you're in a shouting match with a guy who thinks logic is just yelling louder. Lose the argument and you're the town idiot. Win, and they might poison your wine for being a smartass. Oh, and if you're a woman, good luck. You're basically property, stuck at home weaving or popping out babies while the men philosophize about freedom. By noon, you're exhausted, filthy, and paranoid about divine retribution. And guess what? The day's only half over. Wait till you hear about the politics. It's like Game of Thrones, but with worse hygiene and more shouting. You're halfway through your day in ancient Greece, and you're already a sweaty, God-fearing mess. Now it's time to dip your toes into Athenian politics, which is less democracy and more screaming match where someone might shank you. Athens invented democracy, sure, but it's not like they're handing out ballots and free stickers. If you're a male citizen, and only if you're a male citizen with land, you get to waddle up to the assembly, a hillside where every Tom, Dick, and Plato argues about war, taxes, and whether to build another fancy temple. You're thinking, cool, I'll just sit quietly, but nope. Everyone's expected to speak, and if you don't, they assume you're either dumb or plotting a coup. So, you stand up, mumble something about maybe we should fix the roads, and some dude with a unibrow calls you an idiot in front of 6,000 people. Great start. The debates are brutal, think Reddit threads, but louder and with more spitting. If you say the wrong thing, like, let's not fight Sparta, you might get ostracized, which means exiled for 10 years because people wrote your name on a broken pot. No trial, no appeal, just see ya, loser. And don't even think about bribing and everyone's doing it. But if you get caught, it's public humiliation or worse. Meanwhile, the politicians are shadier than a used car salesman. They're all about charisma and yelling, not facts. Some guy named Clean's up there promising free wine for votes, while another dude's accusing him of banging a sacred goat. You try to keep up, but your modern brain's screaming for a fact checker. Oh, and if you're not a citizen? Tough luck. Slaves, women, and foreigners, that's you, time traveler, have zero say. You're just there to clean up the agora after these clowns are done shouting. By the way, let's talk about money. You don't have any. Ancient Greece runs on drachmas, and your credit card's about as useful as a wet sandal. You try bartering your phone, but the merchant laughs and offers you a moldy onion. You're broke, hungry, and now you've got to dodge the tax collector, who's basically a thug with a ledger. If you can't pay, it's off to debtor's prison or forced labor. The sun's beating down, your toga's riding up, and you're starting to realize democracy smells a lot like BO and bad decisions. As the assembly wraps up, you're roped into some civic duty, like cleaning the public latrines. Yeah, that's right, your day's about to get even shittier, literally. Hang tight, because next up, we're diving into the joys of ancient Greek medicine. Spoiler, it involves a lot of goat blood and praying. You're still alive, somehow, but your stomach's rumbling from that dodgy cheese, and your foot's throbbing from stepping on a rogue olive pit. Time to visit an ancient Greek doctor, right? Wrong. These guys make WebMD look like a Nobel Prize winner. Medicine in ancient Greece is a mix of superstition, guesswork, and stuff that'll make you puke harder than a frat party. You limp into the clinic, which is just some guy's house that smells like herbs and despair. The doctor's got a beard like he's auditioning for ZZ Top and a toolkit that screams, "I flunked anatomy." He takes one look at your foot and declares it's cursed by Apollo. Great. His prescription? Sacrifice a chicken and drink a potion made of wine, honey, and what you're pretty sure is donkey piss. You're like, can't you just bandage it? But he's already chanting and waving a stick. If you've got a headache, they might drill a hole in your skull to let the demons out. Yeah, trepanning was a thing, and anesthesia was just a swift knock to the head. Got a cold? They'll bleed you with a rusty knife to balance your humors. Spoiler, it doesn't work, and now you're dizzy and infected. Women have it worse. If you're a lady, they think your womb's wandering around your body causing trouble. Their fix? Sniff some strong herbs to lure it back. No wonder life expectancy was like 35. Oh, and don't expect privacy. The whole neighborhood's watching, offering advice like, rub garlic on it, or pray to Asclepius. You're starting to miss your HMO. By the way, if you're injured in a way that needs surgery, just pray you pass out first. Their tools are unsterilized, and their idea of antiseptic is maybe rinse it in wine. You're more likely to die from the cure than the injury. As you hobble out, the doctor hands you an amulet to ward off evil spirits and charges you 3 drachmas you don't have. Now you're broke, in pain, and possibly cursed. The afternoon's dragging on, and you're supposed to head to the gymnasium, not the Planet Fitness kind, but a sweaty, naked wrestling fest where everyone's oiled up and way too comfortable with their junk out. You're not ready for that level of bromance, but skipping it means you're labeled a weakling. Plus, there's the constant threat of bandits, thieves, or just some drunk dude who thinks you looked at his wife funny. You're hungry, tired, and your foot's still screaming. The sun's setting, but the day's far from over. Next up, we're hitting the social scene, where you'll learn why ancient Greek parties are less fun and more survive or die trying. You've made it to late afternoon, limping and smelling like a mix of BO and bad life choices. Someone invites you to a symposium which sounds like a fancy conference but is actually a booze-fueled boys club where rich dudes get hammered and argue about poetry. You're thinking finally a party, but hold your horses, this ain't no kegger. First, you've gotta dress the part. Your toga's already a sweaty mess and now you're handed a wreath that smells like it was woven from a compost heap. You show up and it's a room full of bearded bros reclining on couches, passing around a jug of wine that tastes like regret and feet. No women allowed unless they're hired entertainers, and even then, they're treated like props. The vibe's half frat house, half TED Talk gone wrong. You're expected to recite some Homer or make a witty speech, but your modern S only knows TikTok quotes. You mumble something about YLO and the room goes silent. Someone calls you a barbarian, and now you're the butt of every joke. The food's no help, more stale bread, some fishy paste, and grapes that are 80% seeds. You're starving, but chewing feels like a CrossFit workout. Then comes the drinking game, Catabos, where you fling wine dregs at a target. Sounds fun, but you're 3 cups in, and your aim's worse than a stormtrooper's. You hit some philosopher in the face, and now he's challenging you to a duel at dawn. Great. The conversation's no better, everyone's debating the soul or the ideal city, and you're just trying not to burp fish paste. If you doze off, they'll dump wine on you, or worse, make you sing. You can't even sneak out because leaving early brands you a coward. By the way, the wine's not just wineite spiked with weird herbs that make you see double or confess your deepest fears. You're slurring about missing Netflix, and some poet's taking notes for his next tragedy. Oh, and the bathroom? A bucket in the corner. No privacy, just you and your shame. As the night drags on, things get rowdy. Dudes are wrestling, flirting with the flute girls, or puking in the courtyard. You're just trying to survive without getting stabbed or married off to someone's cousin. By midnight, you're drunk, broke, and covered in wine stains. You stumble home, but home is that straw mat from this morning, and now it's got fleas. As you collapse, you realize tomorrow's another day of this madness. Next up, we're tackling the legal system where justice is as fair as a coin toss and twice as bloody. You wake up hungover, your head pounding like Zeus is throwing a tantrum in your skull. That symposium was a disaster, and now you've got a bigger problem. Some dude from the party is accusing you of stealing his fancy wine jug. Welcome to the ancient Greek legal system where justice is less law and order and more drunken bar fight with paperwork. You're dragged to court, which is just a dusty square packed with shouting citizens. No lawyers, no CSI, just you, your accuser, and a jury of 500 random dudes who'd rather be at the Agora buying figs. You try explaining you didn't steal anything, but the accuser's got a silver tongue and a crowd-pleasing sob story about how his grandma loved that jug. The jury's eating it up and you're sweating through your toga. Public speaking's a big deal here, and you're bombing harder than a stand-up comic at a funeral. You stammer through your defense, but your modern slang like chill, bro, just makes them think you're possessed. The punishment's no joke. Stealing could mean a fine you can't pay, public flogging, or exile. If you're lucky, it's just a few lashes, but lucky feels like a stretch when you're tied to a post getting whipped while the crowd bets on how long you'll cry. Oh, and if the jug was sacred, your screwed. Blasphemy could get you executed, like poor Socrates chugging hemlock for corrupting the youth. You try bribing the jury, but you've got no cash, and offering your phone just gets laughs. The legal system's a popularity contest, and you're the new kid with no friends. Even if you win, the accuser might just start a blood feud, meaning his cousins will jump you later. Lose, and you're bankrupt or banished. Women, slaves, and foreigners? They don't even get a trial, just a quick guilty and a one-way ticket to misery. As the jury deliberates, you're praying to every god you can name, but you forgot to sacrifice that chicken, so they're probably ignoring you. The sun's brutal, your mouth's dry, and you're still picking grape seeds out of your teeth. The verdict comes guilty. You're fined 10 drachmas you don't have, so it's off to debtor's prison, a lovely pit that smells like despair and unwashed feet. As you're hauled away, you hear the crowd planning tonight's festival. Great. Another party you'll miss while you're chained to a rock. Next up, we're diving into the religious festivals, where you'll learn that celebrate really means sacrifice a bull and hope you don't trip over its guts. Hang in there, Yuri, almost through the day, but it's about to get bloodier. You're in debtor's prison, sulking on a rock, when a guard yanks you out because it's festival time, and even losers like you get to join the chaos. Ancient Greek festivals aren't like Coachella theory, a mix of religious fervor, animal slaughter, and drunken dancing that'd make your grandma clutch her pearls. Today's the Panathenaea, a big bash for Athena, and Athens is buzzing like a frat house before spring break. You're handed a clean-ish toga and shoved into a procession, but you're still broke, hungover, and smelling like yesterday's fish paste. The streets are packed with sweaty citizens, bleeding goats, and priests waving knives. Your job? Help carry a giant woven robe for Athena's statue. Sounds easy, but it's heavier than your student loan debt, and you're tripping over sandals while dodging cow pies. The crowd's chanting hymns, but you don't know the words, so you just mumble la 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 and hope nobody notices. Then comes the main event, animal sacrifice. A bull's led to the altar, and you're front row for the bloodbath. The priest slits its throat, and you're splattered with warm goo while everyone cheers like it's the Super Bowl. You're gagging, but tossing your cookies here is a one-way ticket to Anger the Gods jail. The meat's roasted, and you're hoping for a burger, but nope, it's a chewy slab of beef that's 90% gristle. You're chewing for dear life while some dude next to you rants about how Athena loves his barbecue skills. The festival's not just blood and guts, there's music, but it's all screechy flutes and off-key lyres. Dancing's mandatory, and your modern moves look like a seizure to these guys. You try twerking, and some old lady screams you're possessed by Dionysus. Now you're dodging glares and trying not to step on a sacred chicken. Oh, and the wine's flowing, but it's that same sour swill from the symposium, and you're pretty sure it's giving you diarrhea. As night falls, the party gets wilder torchlit races, naked wrestling, and poets yelling their verses like it's a rap battle. You're exhausted, but bailing early means you're a buzzkill, and Athenians don't forgive party poopers. You're forced to chug more wine, and now you're slurring about Wi-Fi to a guy who thinks you're a prophet. By the end, you're covered in blood, sweat, and shame, collapsing on your flea-infested mat. You've survived the festival, but barely. Next up, we're tackling daily chores, where you'll learn that housework means wrestling goats and praying your roof doesn't collapse. Good luck, you're gonna need it. You're barely conscious after the festival, your body aching like you ran a marathon in flip-flops. But there's no sleeping in ancient Greece doesn't do sick days. You're yanked out of your flea-ridden mat to tackle daily chores, which are less tidy up and more survive a farmyard Hunger Games. First up, you're milking a goat that's got the personality of a hungover bouncer. It kicks, it bites, and you're pretty sure it's plotting your death. You finally get a pathetic squirt of milk, only to spill it when a chicken dive bombs your head. Next, you're hauling water from a well half a mile away, using a clay jug that weighs more than your ego. The path's muddy, your sandals are slipping, and some kid's throwing rocks at you for fun. Back home, you're supposed to grind barley into flour, but the hand mill's a torture device that turns your arms into jelly. You're sweating buckets, and the flour's got more dirt than a festival porta-potty. Cooking's no bacteriary trying to light a fire with damp wood and a flint, but all you get is smoke and a coughing fit. The kitchen is a clay oven that's hotter than Hades and twice as temperamental. Your bread comes out like a hockey puck, And the stew's got mystery chunks you don't want to identify. Cleaning the house? Ha! You're sweeping a dirt floor with a bundle of twigs, chasing dust clouds while spiders the size of your fist laugh at you. Laundry's even worse-y, scrubbing your toga in a river with rocks and some dodgy soap that smells like rancid oil. The water's cold, your hands are raw, and a fish keeps nibbling your toes. If you're a woman, this is your whole day, plus weaving wool into cloth that feels like sandpaper. Men aren't off the hookery fixing the roof, which is just straw and prayers holding back the rain. One wrong move and you're falling into a pile of goat crap. Oh, and don't forget the animals feeding pigs, chasing runaway sheep, and dodging that demonic goat again. By noon, you're filthy, exhausted, and dreaming of a Roomba. The worst part? There's no break. You're expected to keep the house running while the men are off philosophizing or wrestling naked. If you slack, the neighbors gossip, and suddenly you're that lazy foreigner who can't handle a broom. As the sun climbs, you're already dreading the next task. Dealing with the marketplace, where haggling is a blood sport and your wallet's as empty as your stomach. Buckle up, because surviving ancient Greece is starting to feel like a full-time job with no pay and worse coffee. You're battered from chores, your toga's more dirt than fabric, and your stomach's growling louder than a Spartan war cry. Time to hit the Agora, Athens marketplace, which is like a Black Friday sale crossed with a barnyard riot. You've got no money, but maybe you can barter something, except all you've got is a flea infestation and a bad attitude. The Agora's a sensory overload, merchants screaming about their fresh fish that smells like it died last week, donkeys braying, and some poet reciting his garbage for spare change. You're dodging mud, manure, and kids who'll pick your pocket faster than you can say, drachma. You try haggling for a loaf of bread, but the baker's got a mouth like a sailor and calls you a cheapskate in front of everyone. Bartering's a no-goyer offer of future IOUs gets you laughed out of the stall. Food's expensive, and your modern palate's crying for pizza, but all you see is overpriced olives, questionable cheese, and wine that tastes like regret. You're so hungry you consider stealing a fig, but the last guy who tried got his hand chopped off, so you rethink that plan. Then there's the social gauntlet. The Agora's where everyone gossips and you're the hot topic, that weird foreigner who can't milk a goat. You try blending in, but your modern walk screams outsider, and some philosopher starts quizzing you on the meaning of life. You mumble live, laugh, love, and he calls you a moron. Oh, and watch out for scammers, some guys selling sacred amulets that are just rocks painted with sheep blood. You're broke, so you dodge him, but now you've pissed off his buddy, who's built like a minotaur and looking for a fight. If you're a woman, it's worse you're not even supposed to be here unchaperoned, and every dude's leering like you're on display. You finally score a moldy onion for free out of pity, but eating it raw makes you cry harder than a Greek tragedy. The sun's brutal, your feet are blistered, and you're starting to hallucinate about Taco Bell. As you limp away, you realize you've still got to deal with the evening's entertainment. A theater performance where you'll either fall asleep or offend someone by laughing at the wrong part. The day's winding down, but ancient Greece isn't done kicking your ass. Next up, we're hitting the theater, where you'll learn that culture means sitting on a rock for hours while actors scream about fate and incest. Hang in there, you're almost at the finish line, but it's gonna be a bumpy ride. You're dragging yourself through Athens, clutching your sad onion, when you're roped into attending a theater performance. You're thinking, sweet, some entertainment, but ancient Greek theater is less Hamilton and more 3 hours of screaming about dead babies while your butt goes numb. You're herded to the Theater of Dionysus, a massive stone amphitheater with seats that feel like they were carved by a sadist. No cushions, no popcorn, just you, a rock, and 15,000 sweaty Athenians farting in unison. The play's a tragedy by some guy named Sophocles, and the actors are wearing masks that look like they're stuck in a permanent scream. The plot? Some king accidentally bangs his mom and gouges his eyes out. Cheery stuff. You're trying to follow, but the dialogue's all poetic gibberish, and the chorus is chanting like a cult on Red Bull. You laugh at a line you think is a joke, and the guy next to you hisses that you're disrespecting the gods. Great, another divine smiting to worry about. You're starving, but there's no concession stand, just vendors selling overpriced figs and that same sour wine. Your onion's starting to look gourmet. The sun's blazing and there's no shade, so you're sweating through your toga while trying not to doze off. Fall asleep, and you'll get pelted with olive pits by the rowdy crowd. If it's a comedy, it's not much better than crude fart jokes and dick puns that'd make a 12-year-old blush. You try clapping at the wrong time, and now you're the idiot who doesn't get culture. Women barely get to attend, and if you're one, you're stuck in the nosebleed seats, squinting at the stage while men grumble about your presence. The play drags on, and your modern attention span's screaming for a TikTok break. By the end, your ass is bruised, your brain's fried, and you're pretty sure you've caught fleas from the guy next to you. As you stumble out, you realize it's nearly bedtime, but bed is that straw mat that smells like a barnyard crime scene. You've got one last hurdle, surviving the night in a city where thieves, drunks, and stray dogs roam the streets. You're broke, filthy, and culturally overwhelmed, dreaming of Netflix and a hot shower. Next up, we're wrapping up your day with the joys of nighttime in ancient Greece, where sleep means praying you don't get robbed or eaten by a rat. You're almost done, but this day's got one last punch to throw. You've staggered back from the theater, clutching your pathetic onion, your ass bruised from those stone seats. It's nighttime in Athens, and you're dreaming of a soft bed and Netflix, but home is that straw mat that smells like a barnyard crime scene. No locks, no lights, just you, a stick for protection, and a rat family eyeballing your onion like it's a Michelin star meal. The streets outside are a shit show. Drunks are singing off-key hymns to Dionysus, stray dogs are snarling, and some dude's yelling about a stolen sandal. You're paranoid about thieves, who'll gut you for a crust of bread, so you're clutching that stick like it's Excalibur. Sleep? Ha! The neighbors are having a screaming match about whose goat shat on whose porch, and a rogue rooster's crowing like it's auditioning for a death metal band. Your mat's crawling with fleas, and every itch feels like a plague waiting to happen. You try praying to Hypnos for sleep, but you forgot to sacrifice a chicken, so he's probably flipping you off from Olympus. The air's thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and yesterday's fish stew, and your modern nose is begging for Febreze. If you're a woman, it's worse straying outside at night means risking a lecture on virtue or worse from some bearded creep. You're starving, but eating that onion raw makes your breath a weapon of mass destruction. You're starting to hallucinate about Taco Bell when you hear a rustle. Is it a bandit? A god? Nope, just another rat, but your heart's racing like you're in a horror flick. By some miracle, you doze off, only to be jolted awake by a dogfight outside. Your body's screaming for a hot shower, but all you've got is a crusty toga and a bucket of regrets. As dawn creeps in, you realize you've survived the night barely. But the day's about to start, and ancient Greece doesn't do snooze buttons. You're already dreading the morning prayers, which involve more blood and bullshit than a vampire's breakfast. Hang tight, because this hellhole's about to throw another curveball. You're jolted awake at 4 a.m. by a rooster that's screaming like it's possessed. Your straw mat's now a flea convention, and your body feels like it lost a cage match with a minotaur. You were dreaming of Wi-Fi, flush toilets, and a double-shot latte, but instead, you're back in the sweaty, smelly nightmare called ancient Greece. Your breakfast is a crust of stale bread you found under the mat, now sporting a lovely egg garnish. You try choking it down, but it's like chewing a brick, and your stomach's growling louder than Cerberus. You're still clutching that sad onion, but it's starting to look more like a science experiment than food. You stumble outside, hoping for a breeze, but the air's a mix of goat piss and despair. No coffee, no Red Bull, just existential dread to keep you going. You're supposed to start the day with prayers, but you're too tired to care about Zeus's ego. Big mistake. Some neighbor spots you skipping the altar and starts yelling about divine wrath. Now the whole street thinks you're cursed, and someone chucks an olive at your head for good luck. Your toga's a filthy rag, and your sandals are giving you blisters that'd make a Spartan cry. You're dreaming of a hot shower, but the best you've got is a bucket of river water that's 90% mud. Brushing your teeth? Ha! That twig you used yesterday just made your gums bleed. You're starting to miss your dentist more than your mom. As the sun rises, you're already sweating through your toga and the day's barely started. You try napping, but some kid's banging a pot and calling you that weird foreigner who smells like onions. Your modern brain's screaming for a break, but ancient Greece doesn't do self-care. You're haunted by last night's nightmare communal-ass sponges, angry gods, and philosophers judging your hygiene. You're pretty sure Socrates was in there, shaking his head at your inability to milk a goat. By 6 a.m., you're ready to yeet yourself back to the 21st century, but you're stuck here, facing another round of bullshit. Next up, morning prayers, where you'll learn that worship means blood, guts, and dodging a priest's bad breath. Buckle up, it's gonna be a long day. The sun's barely up and you're already regretting every life choice that landed you in ancient Greece. You're dragged to a morning prayer session because apparently you can't just live UV, gotta kiss up to every god from Zeus to the deity of stray sandals. The altar's a stone slab covered in old blood and the priest looks like he hasn't bathed since the Trojan War. He hands you a chicken and a knife, expecting you to slit its throat for Athena's breakfast. You're like, can't I just light a candle? But the priest's glaring like you just farted in his temple. The chicken's not cooperating, it's flapping, scratching, and screaming louder than you did at that symposium. You finally nick its neck, but you botch the cut, and now you're covered in feathers and blood, while the priest yells about your shitty sacrifice skills. The crowd's muttering you've cursed the harvest, and someone chucks a fig at your head. You're supposed to chant a hymn, but you don't know the words, so you mumble YOLO and hope it passes. Spoiler, it doesn't. Now you're on Apollo's naughty list, and your day's off to a stellar start. The air smells like burnt feathers and BO, and your toga's a Jackson Pollock painting of blood and dirt. You're starving, but the only food is a communal bowl of barley mush that tastes like regret and sand. You try sneaking a nap, but some kid pelts you with olives for disrespecting Hestia. Apparently, every move you make is a divine insult. If you're a woman, you're stuck in the back, praying silently while the men hog the spotlight. You're starting to think the gods are just cosmic Karens, demanding constant worship and smiting you for forgetting their coffee order. By 8 a.m., you're exhausted, sticky, and paranoid about lightning bolts. The priest slaps an amulet on you to ward off evil, but it's just a rock tied with string, and he charges you a drachma you don't have. Now you're in debt again, and the day's barely begun. Next up, you're mistaken for a slave and roped into scrubbing pots for some rich asshole. Hang in there, this shit show's about to get dirtier. You're still picking feathers out of your hair when some burly dude grabs you, mistaking you for a slave. Before you can say, time traveler, you're shoved into a rich Athenian's house to scrub pots. This ain't no Downton Abbey gig slave life in ancient Greece is a sweaty, soul-crushing grind. The kitchen is a smoky hellhole with a clay oven that's hotter than Satan's armpit. You're handed a pile of crusty pots coated in fish guts and mystery grease, and your sponge is a rag that's seen more action than a brothel. You try explaining you're from the future, but the overseer guy with a face like a pissed-off bulldog laughs and whacks you with a stick. Your job's simple. Scrub, haul, and don't talk back. You're scraping pots with your nails, gagging on the stench, and dodging the master's kids, who think throwing olive pits at you is peak comedy. Lunch? A crust of bread that's harder than your will to live, and a sip of water that tastes like it was scooped from a donkey trough. The master's lounging nearby, eating grapes and ranting about democracy while you're wrist-deep in fish slime. If you're a woman, it's worse sad leering from the master and his creepy uncle who think slave means free game. You try sneaking a break, but the overseer catches you and assigns you to clean the latrine. Yeah, that communal-ass sponge is back, and now you're scrubbing the seat with it. Your modern germaphobe brain's screaming, but there's no hand sanitizer, just a bucket of gritty water. The house is a maze of dirt floors and crumbling walls, and you're hauling firewood, dodging spiders, and praying the roof doesn't cave in. By noon, your hands are raw, your back screaming, and you're fantasizing about a desk job. You try bargaining, offering your onion as a bribe, but the overseer just laughs and adds, "Fetch more water" to your list. You're starting to think debtor's prison was a five-star resort. As you limp through the courtyard, you hear war drums grate, the city's on edge about Sparta, and you're about to be dragged into a militia drill. Buckle up, because your day's about to go from shitty to stabby. You're barely done scrubbing fish guts when a horn blares and some dude in a bronze helmet yanks you into a citizen militia drill. Athens is paranoid about Sparta, and every able-bodied man's gotta play soldier, even you, the guy who trips over his own toga. You're handed a spear and a shield that weighs more than your life's regrets. The commander, a grizzled jerk who smells like onions and rage, screams you're holding it wrong before you even start. You're marched to a dusty field with a bunch of sweaty Athenians who look like they'd rather stab you than the enemy. The training is chaos, running in circles, dodging javelins, and trying not to impale yourself. You trip over a rock, drop your spear, and get laughed at by guys who've been wrestling naked since puberty. Your modern cardio's a joke. 5 minutes in, you're wheezing like a broken accordion. The commander calls you a soft-bellied foreigner and makes you do push-ups in the dirt while he farts in your general direction. If you're a woman, you're not even here, just stuck at home weaving while the men play war. The shield's rubbing your shoulder raw and the helmet's giving you a headache worse than that symposium wine. You try asking for a water break, but the commander chucks a rock at you and yells about Spartan toughness. Lunch is a handful of olives and a sip of vinegar water, which you spill when a stray javelin nearly skewers your foot. The worst part? You're supposed to look heroic, but your toga's riding up and your sandals are flopping like a dying fish. By afternoon, you're bruised, sunburned, and pretty sure you've pulled every muscle from your neck to your nuts. You're starting to think a Spartan invasion might be less painful than this bullshit. As the drill ends, you're limping back to town, only to hear whispers about omens and curses. Great, now you're headed to consult an oracle who's probably just a scam artist with a bad wig. Hang tight, this day's about to get weirder. You're limping back from the militia drill, your body screaming for an ice pack and a beer, when you sneeze. Big mistake. In ancient Greece, every hiccup, fart, or falling leaf is a sign you've pissed off a god. Some old lady in the agora points at you, screaming you've cursed the city with your snot. Now everyone's whispering about omens and you're public enemy number one. You're dragged to an oracle to fix your bad juju. The oracle's a wrinkly hag who smells like herbs and regret, sitting in a smoky tent with a crystal ball that's probably just a shiny rock. She's muttering about goats and staring at you like you're a Big Mac. You try explaining you just have allergies, but she's already burning feathers and chanting like she's auditioning for a witch flick. Her vision? You've angered Artemis, and the fix is to sacrifice a pig and avoid black cats. You're broke, so you mumble you'll think about it, but now the crowd's convinced you're a walking plague. Superstitions are everywhere, spill wine, and Poseidon's sending a tsunami, trip on a rock, and Athena's got beef. You're paranoid, dodging crows and stepping over cracks like it's a minefield. Lunch is a moldy fig someone dropped, but you're too scared to eat it in case it's cursed. If you're a woman, it's worse, people think your period's a divine punishment and you're banned from temples. You're starting to think these gods are just cosmic trolls fucking with you for kicks. The oracle charges you 2 drachmas you don't have, so you're back in debt, and her sacred amulet is just a twig. As you stumble out, you hear about a school where you're supposed to learn wisdom. Great, more bullshit, but at least it's not another sacrifice. Buckle up, this day's about to get brainier, but not in a good way. You're still twitching from the oracle's creepy vibes when some do-gooder drags you to a school to learn rhetoric and wisdom. You're thinking, cool, maybe I'll finally get some respect, but ancient Greek education is like getting whacked with a stick while memorizing poetry. The classroom's a dusty courtyard, and the teacher's a bearded grump who looks like he hates fun. He hands you a wax tablet and a stylus, expecting you to scribble Homer's Iliad from memory. You try writing "help me," but your handwriting's worse than a drunk toddler's, and the teacher smacks your knuckles with a rod. The lesson? Recite epic poems about Achilles' temper tantrums while dodging the teacher's spit. You try quoting Kanye West to seem cool, and the kid's naughty little philosophers in training law you out of the courtyard. If you're a girl, you're not even here, you're stuck at home learning to weave and shut up. The boys are memorizing geometry and arguing about the soul, but you're struggling to spell Odysseus. Lunch is a handful of grapes that taste like regret, and the bathroom is a ditch behind a bush. You're supposed to debate, but your modern slang like lit makes everyone think you're possessed. The teacher's droning about virtue, but you're distracted by a goat chewing your sandal. By afternoon, your brain's fried, your hands cramped, and you're pretty sure you've failed 5th century kindergarten. You try sneaking out, but the teacher catches you and assigns you to clean the tablets, which means scraping wax with your nails. You're starting to miss the militia drill. At least there, you could hide behind a shield. As you're scraping, some dude mentions a marriage proposal for you. Great, now you're dodging an arranged wedding with some farmer's cousin. Hang in there, this day's about to get lovey-dovey, but not in a cute way. You're still scraping wax from those damn tablets when a sweaty merchant grabs you, saying his cousin needs a spouse and you're good enough. Welcome to the ancient Greek marriage market, where love's a myth and you're basically livestock. You're paraded in the agora like a prize pig, your toga still crusty with blood and fish guts. The cousin's a farmer with a unibrow and breath that could knock out a hydra. His dad's grilling you on your wealth, but your net worth is one moldy onion and a stick. You try explaining you're a time traveler, not husband material, but they laugh and offer you a goat as a dowry. If you're a woman, it's worse. You've got no say, and the family's already planning your life of weaving and popping out kids. You're like, can't we just date? But marriage, here's a contract, not a rom-com. The dad's haggling over your value, and you're dodging questions about your family tree. You mumble something about Netflix, and now they think you're from a cult. You try flirting to seem charming, but your modern pickup lines like, you got Wi-Fi, land like a wet fart. The crowd's eating it up, betting on whether you'll cry before the deal's done. Lunch is a communal bowl of lentils that tastes like dirt, and you're eating while the farmer's mom inspects your teeth like you're a horse. You're tempted to bolt, but the family's got cousins who look like they bench press oxen, and they're eyeing you like a runaway slave. You dodge the altar by claiming your curse thanks, Oracle, but now you've insulted their honor, and the dad's screaming about a blood feud. Great, another reason to watch your back. As you slip away, you're roped into a public bath to clean up. Spoiler, it's not relaxing. Buckle up, this day's about to get wet and weird. You've escaped the marriage market, but your victory lap's cut short when someone drags you to the public baths to clean up. You're thinking finally, a shower, but ancient Greek baths are less spa day and more sweaty, naked nightmare. The bathhouse is a steamy cave packed with hairy dudes who've never heard of personal space. The water's in a murky pool that looks like it's been used to boil socks, and the soap is a lump of oil and ash that smells like regret. You're handed a communal sponge, yet the ass sponge's cousin, and told to scrub. Your modern germaphobe brain screaming, but there's no Lysol, just a bunch of Athenians splashing like it's a frat pool party. You try hiding your junk, but everyone's strutting around like they're auditioning for a nudist colony. If you're a woman, you're in a separate section, but it's still crowded, and the water's just as gross. Your tan lines scream foreigner, and some guy's staring like you're a new exhibit at the Agora. You slip on the slimy floor, landing ass up, and the room erupts in laughter. Now you're the bathhouse punchline, and someone's already spreading the story. You try washing your toga, but it's so crusty it could stand on its own. The water's cold, your blisters are screaming, and a fishy smell's following you like a curse. You're pretty sure you're dirtier than when you started. Lunch is a handful of olives someone left behind, but you're too paranoid about cursed food to enjoy it. As you stumble out, you're roped into visiting the Oracle again. Someone thinks your bathhouse flop was a divine sign. Great, more scam artist bullshit. Hang in there, this day's about to get shittier, literally. Your bathhouse flop's the talk of Athens, and some busybody insists it's a divine omen, so you're dragged back to the Oracle for guidance. You're hoping for a time travel fix, but the Oracle's still that stoned hag, now peddling magic, herbs that smell like feet and despair. Her tent's a haze of smoke and bad vibes, and she's muttering about snakes while eyeing your onion like it's gold. You explain you just want to go home, but she's already waving a stick and chanting like she's summoning a demon. Her vision says you've pissed off Hermes, And the fix is to burn your toga and drink a potion that looks like swamp water. You're like, hard pass, but the crowd's nodding like she's dropping TED Talk wisdom. She shoves a bag of herbs at you, claiming they'll open the cosmos, but they just give you the runs 10 minutes later. You're shitting your toga in an alley while cursing her snake oil hustle. The herbs cost 3 drachmas you don't have, so you're back in debt, and the sacred amulet she gave you is just a bone with googly eyes painted on. If you're a woman, the oracle's even shadier, blaming your wandering womb for everything. You're starting to think ancient Greece is one big scam, and you're the mark. The locals swear by this crap, chugging potions and waving amulets like it's Black Friday at a witch shop. You're limping, broke, and hallucinating about Uber Eats when you stumble into a street fight over a rotten fish. Great, now you're dodging punches in the agora. Buckle up, this day's about to get bloodier. You're still doubled over from the oracle's cosmic herbs, shitting your toga in an alley when you stumble into a full-on agora brawl. 2 merchants are screaming over a rotten fish, fists flying like it's a Black Friday sale for stinky mackerel. You try dodging, but a stray punch clocks you in the jaw, and now you're bleeding like a sacrificial goat. The crowd's cheering, betting drachmas on who'll pass out first, and you're pretty sure you're the favorite to lose. You're not built for this, your modern ass can barely handle a spicy Taco Bell order, let alone a Greek fistfight. You crawl under a stall, clutching your sad onion, but some kid spots you and pelts you with olives for being a coward. Great, another blow to your ego. As you limp away, you trip into a shady deal. 2 thugs are haggling over a stolen Athena statue, whispering like they're in a low-budget mob flick. They spot you, and now they think you're a snitch. You mumble, I'm just here for the vibes, but they're cracking their knuckles, ready to turn you into souvlaki. You bolt, sandals slapping, dodging donkeys and manure piles, but your cardio's as weak as your drachma game. If you're a woman, it's worse, the agora's a dude fest, and running draws leers and lectures about proper behavior. You hide behind a fig cart, but the merchant rats you out, hoping for a bribe. You offer your onion, and he laughs so hard he chokes on a seed. Lunch? A crust of bread you swipe from the ground, but it's got more dirt than a festival latrine. The thugs are still hunting you, and your toga's now a tie-dye of blood, shit, and shame. You're praying for a cop, but ancient Greece's security is just some drunk with a spear who'd rather join the fight. As you catch your breath, you hear Whale Simone's died, and you're roped into a funeral. Buckle up, because this day's about to get creepier than a haunted outhouse. You've barely escaped the agora thugs when a wailing crowd drags you to a funeral for some neighbor you never met. Ancient Greek funerals aren't quiet affairs, theory a screaming, hair-tearing shit show that makes your worst family reunion look chill. The body's on a pyre, wrapped in a cloth that smells like regret, and the air's thick with smoke and BO. You're handed a torch and told to help light the fire, but you're so clumsy you nearly set your toga ablaze. The crowd's wailing like it's an audition for a Greek tragedy, and some lady's ripping her hair out like it's a bad weave. You're supposed to chant prayers to guide the soul, but you mumble, rest in peace, bro, and now everyone's glaring like you've cursed the guy to Hades. The pyre smells like barbecue gone wrong, and your empty stomach's torn between hunger and nausea. If you're a woman, you're stuck in the back, expected to wail louder to honor the dead, while men hog the spotlight. You try faking a sob, but it sounds like a burp, and some kid pelts you with figs for disrespect. The priest's droning about Karen's fairy, but you're distracted by a stray dog chewing the deceased sandal. You're forced to toss offerings, barley, wine, and your last olive into the fire, leaving you officially foodless. The smoke's choking you, and your toga's now a smoky, bloody, shitty mess. You're starting to think this guy's soul is fine, but yours is doomed. As the pyre burns, the crowd starts a creepy dance, and you're roped in, tripping over your sandals and looking like a drunk flamingo. By dusk, you're exhausted, starving, and paranoid you've jinxed the afterlife. You're dreaming of escape, but the harbor's your only shot, and it's crawling with grumpy fishermen. Hanging to this day's almost over, but it's got one last kick in the nuts. You're staggering away from the funeral, coughing up pyre smoke and smelling like a burnt goat, when you decide you're done with ancient Greece. Fuck the gods. Fuck the Aspangesserie escaping. The harbor's your best bet, so you limp toward the docks, dodging drunks and stray dogs that look hungrier than you. You're clutching your onion like it's a lifeline, but your toga's so crusty it's practically armor. The harbor's a chaotic mess, fishermen yelling about their haul, slaves hauling nets, and seagulls shitting on everything. You spot a rickety boat and think, that's my ticket out. But you don't know how to sail, and your last swim was a doggy paddle in a kiddie pool. You try sneaking aboard, but a grizzled captain with a beard like a bird's nest catches you and screams about landlubber thieves. You offer your onion as a bribe, and he laughs so hard he drops his oar. If you're a woman, it's worse women aren't supposed to be near the docks, and every sailor's leering like you're a siren with a bad haircut. You pivot to plan B, begging a merchant for passage. You find a guy selling fishy wine, but when you pitch your take me anywhere sob story, he demands 10 drachmas you don't have. You try bartering your sandals, but he'd rather trade for a goat's fart. The sun's setting, and you're broke, starving, and starting to think Athens has beaten you. You're tempted to pray for a time machine, but you've pissed off every god from Zeus to the deity of dirty laundry. The harbor guards are eyeing you like you're a runaway slave, and your blisters are screaming louder than a tragic chorus. You collapse on the dock, realizing escape's a pipe dream. One last hurdle, surviving the night back on that flea-infested mat. Buckle up, this day's about to end with a whimper. You're slumped on the dock, defeated, your onion now a mushy relic of your worst day ever. The sun's gone, and ancient Greece has kicked your ass harder than a Spartan at Thermopylae. You drag yourself back to that flea-ridden straw mat, dodging drunks and dogs, your toga a biohazard of blood, shit, and pyre ash. You collapse, reflecting on the shit show, waking up to goat piss air, wiping with a communal ass sponge, and choking on stale bread. You got smited by gods, yelled at by philosophers, and punched over a fish. You botched sacrifices, flopped at school, and dodged a marriage to a unibrow farmer. The agora, the theater, the baths, every step was a new way to humiliate your soft 21st century ass. You're broke, blistered, and probably cursed, with a life expectancy shorter than a TikTok trend. If you're a woman, add constant leering and zero rights to the mix. You're dreaming of Wi-Fi, pizza, and a flush toilet, but all you've got is a rat staring at you like your dinner. You try praying for a time machine, but Zeus is probably cackling, sipping nectar, and betting on your next screw-up. Your body's a bruise, your stomach's a void, and your ego's in Tartarus. Ancient Greece isn't a Vibi, it's a survival gauntlet, and you're no Hercules. As you drift off, fleas biting your nuts, you realize modern life's a goddamn paradise. Hot showers, Netflix, coffee. You'll never take M for granted again. If you enjoyed this time travel torture, smash that subscribe button for more ancient ass-kickings. Peace out, or whatever they say in Athens. You wake up on that flea-infested straw mat, your body screaming like you wrestled a cyclops. It's day 2 in ancient Greece, and you're praying for a time machine, but all you get is a rooster screeching like it's possessed by Hades. Your toga's a crusty biohazard, and your onion's now a moldy lump you're too desperate to toss. Breakfast? A crumb of stale bread you fight a rat for, and it tastes like despair and dirt. You're dreaming of coffee, but the best you've got is a jug of water that smells like a donkey's armpit. You stumble outside, hoping for a miracle, but the air's thick with BO and fish funk. Your blisters are throbbing, and your modern immune system's waving a white flag. You try praying to Apollo for mercy, but you forgot to sacrifice a goat, so he's probably plotting to smite your ass. Some neighbor spots you scratching your flea bites and yells you're cursed, chucking a fig at your head for cleansing. Great, you're still Athens' favorite punching bag. If you're a woman, it's worse. Stepping outside means dodging leers and lectures about staying indoors. You're supposed to fetch water, but the well's a mile away, and your sandals are basically duct tape at this point. You're already sweating through your toga, and it's barely 6 a.m. You're tempted to hide, but some kid's banging a pot, calling you that onion weirdo. As you limp toward the agora, you hear rumors of a public trial. Yep, you're about to get dragged into another Greek shit dorm. Buckle up, day two's gonna make yesterday look like a spa day. You're limping to the agora, clutching your moldy onion, when a mob drags you to a public trial. Apparently, someone's accusing you of stealing a sacred olive from Athena's temple. Spoiler: you didn't, but facts don't matter in ancient Greece. The court is a dusty square packed with 500 sweaty dudes yelling like it's a wrestling match. No lawyers, just you versus a loudmouth with a beard like a bird's nest, spinning a sob story about how you defiled the goddess. You try explaining you were too busy shitting your toga to steal anything, but your modern slang like chill, bro, makes them think you're a barbarian. The jury's eating it up, betting drachmas on your punishment. You're sweating through your crusty toga, stammering a defense, but public speaking here's a blood sport, and you're bombing harder than a drunk poet. If you're a woman, you're not even allowed to speak, just sit there while men decide your fate. The punishment's grim: exile, flogging, or a fine you can't pay. You offer your onion as a bribe, and the crowd laughs like it's a comedy festival. The accuser claims you're cursed, pointing to your flea bites as divine proof. You're starting to think Zeus is personally fucking with you. Lunch is a communal barley mush that tastes like sand, and you're eating while dodging olive pits from the crowd. The jury's deliberating, but you're distracted by a stray dog eyeing your onion. The verdict? Guilty because, of course, you're sentenced to clean the temple step snake. Great, more humiliation. As you're hauled off, you hear about a wrestling match you're forced to join. Buckle up. It's about to get sweaty and painful. You're still reeling from the trial, sentenced to scrub temple steps in your birthday suit, when some meathead drags you to a wrestling match in the gymnasium. Ancient Greek wrestling isn't white, sweaty, oiled-up dudes grappling naked under the sun, and you're the new guy who screams, "Loser." You're handed a jar of olive oil and told to slather up, but your modern brain's gagging at the thought of communal loop. The arena is a dirt patch packed with cheering Athenians who smell like wine and regret. Your opponent's a bronze beefcake who looks like he eats goats for breakfast, and you're the twig who can't do a push-up. The rules? Grapple till someone taps or cries, but you're too busy tripping over your own feet. You try dodging, but he grabs you, and now you're slipping in oil, flopping like a fish while the crowd roars. If you're a woman, you're banned from this bromance fest, stuck watching from afar while weaving yet another shitty blanket. Your toga's gone, so you're wrestling in a loincloth that's riding up your ass, and your blisters are screaming louder than the chorus at a tragedy. You tap out in 10 seconds, but the beefcake slams you anyway, and now you're eating dirt. Lunch is a handful of grapes someone chucked at you, but they're 80% seeds. The crowd's calling you Onion Boy, and your ego's in the underworld. You're bruised, oily, and dreaming of a hot shower, but the day's not done. Next up, you're roped into a religious ritual that's all blood and bad vibes. Hang tight, this shit show's getting gorier. You're limping from the wrestling match, covered in oil and shame, when a priest grabs you for a religious ritual to appease Athena for your alleged olive theft. You're thinking, can't I just say sorry? But ancient Greece loves its blood and guts. The temple's a stone slab slick with old gore, and the air smells like burnt meat and despair. You're handed a squawking goat and a rusty knife, expected to slit its throat while chanting hymns. The goat's kicking like it knows your track record with sacrifices, and you're still shaky from wrestling. You nick its neck, but it's a messy job, and now you're splattered with blood while the priest screams you've fucked the vibes. The crowd's muttering you've pissed off another god, and someone chucks a sandal at your head. If you're a woman, you're stuck in the back, praying silently while the men hog the gore. You're supposed to toss barley into the fire, but you slip and dump the whole bag, earning glares like you've doomed the harvest. Lunch is a chewy goat chunk that's 90% gristle, and you're chewing while dodging flies. Your toga's a bloody, oily mess, and your flea bites are itching like a divine curse. The priest slaps a sacred wreath on your head, but it's just wilted leaves that smell like compost. You're broke, so when he demands a drachma for temple upkeep, you offer your onion, and he curses you to Tartarus. As you stumble out, you're roped into a poetry contest, yet more public humiliation. Buckle up. This day's about to get wordy and weird. You're dripping blood and oil, staggering from the temple when some hipster poet drags you to a poetry contest in the agora. You're thinking, maybe I can flex some rhymes. But ancient Greek poetry's less Lil Nas X and more ode to a dead goat vibes. The stage is a wobbly platform surrounded by drunk Athenians who smell like wine and feet. You're handed a lyre, but you play it like a toddler with a toy guitar, and the crowd's already booing. The rules? Recite an epic poem about honor or some bullshit, but your modern ass only knows TikTok jingles. You try freestyling about Wi-Fi and pizza, and the crowd roars like you've shat on their grandma's grave. If you're a woman, you're not even allowed to compete, just sit there clapping while the men stroke their egos. Your opponent's a bearded bard spitting verses about Zeus's abs, and you're mumbling YOLO to fill the silence. Someone chucks a fig at your head, and your onion rolls into the dirt, officially dead. Lunch is a communal cup of sour wine that tastes like regret, and you're chugging while dodging hecklers. You're supposed to bow to Apollo, but you trip, and now everyone thinks you've cursed the arts. The judges, a trio of snobby philosophers, call your poem barbarian drivel and ban you from future contests. Your ego's in Hades, and your toga's a tie-dye of gore and shame. As you slink away, you're roped into a chariot race at more ways to die. Hang tight, this day's about to get fast and fatal. You're still smarting from your poetry flop, your ego bruised worse than your ass when some lunatic drags you to a chariot race. You're thinking, cool, like Fast and Furious, but ancient Greek racing's a death trap with horses and 0 seatbelts. You're handed the reins of a rickety chariot pulled by 2 nags that look hungover. The track is a dusty loop packed with screaming Athenians betting on your demise. You're paired with a driver who smells like garlic and rage, and he's screaming at you to hold tight. You're barely clinging on when the race starts, and the chariot's bouncing like a drunk donkey. Your modern ass can't even parallel park, let alone steer this death cart. You veer left, nearly crash into a rival, and the crowd's cheering like it's a gladiator match. If you're a woman, you're stuck in the stands, dodging leers while praying you don't get blamed for a crash. Your toga's flapping, your blisters are screaming, and a wheel's wobbling like it's ready to yeet you to Hades. You crash into a hay bale, and the horses bolt, dragging you through the dirt while the crowd roars. Lunch is a spilled handful of olives you can't salvage. You're bruised, dusty, and officially chariot loser. The driver curses you for cursing the race, and now you're dodging his fist. As you limp away, you're roped into a philosopher's debate. Great, more brain pain. Buckle up. This day's about to get talky and torturous. You're coughing up chariot dust, your body a roadmap of bruises, when some toga-clad nerd drags you to a philosopher's debate in the agora. You're thinking, maybe I'll sound smart, but ancient Greek philosophy's a shouting match with extra beard. The venue is a shady corner packed with sweaty intellectuals who smell like wine and smugness. The topic? What is justice? You're paired with a guy who looks like Socrates' angrier cousin, and he's yelling about virtue before you can blink. You try chiming in with live and let live, but your modern vibes get you laughed off like you're a drunk bard. If you're a woman, you're not even allowed to speed, just sit there while the men jerk off to their own logic. You're supposed to quote Plato, but you mumble while low and the crowd pelts you with figs. Your toga's a dusty, bloody rag, and your onion's long gone, stolen by a stray dog. Lunch is a communal lentil slop that tastes like dirt, and you're eating while dodging the philosopher's spit. You're starting to think these guys argue just to hear their own voices. The debate drags on, and your modern attention span's screaming for a TikTok break. You doze off, and someone douses you with wine to wake your soul. Great, now you're sticky and shamed. The philosophers declare you ignorant, and you're banished to scrub their scrolls. As you limp away, you're roped into a pottery workshop, yet more manual labor. Hang tight, this day's about to get clay-caked and crappy. You're still sticky from the philosopher's wine bath, your ego in tatters, when a grumpy artisan shoves you into a pottery workshop. You're thinking, maybe I'll craft a cute vase. But ancient Greek pottery's a sweaty, clay-caked nightmare. The studio is a smoky shack with a wheel that looks like it's plotting your demise. You're handed a lump of clay and told to spin a perfect amphora, but your modern hands are better at swiping screens than shaping pots. The artisana guy with a face like a pissed-off mule barks orders while you fumble, turning the clay into a lumpy mess that looks like a drunk toddler's art project. If you're a woman, you're stuck painting pots in the corner, dodging leers from the men who think art means flirt. The wheel jams, clay splatters your toga, and you're coughing up dust while the artisan screams you're ruining his legacy. Lunch is a moldy fig you found on the floor, but you're too hungry to care. You try painting a pot with LOL to seem cool, but the artisan smacks your hand, saying it's blasphemous. Your pot cracks in the kiln, and now you're mopping the floor as punishment. Your blisters are screaming, and the clay's caked under your nails like a bad manicure. You're starting to miss the chariot crash, at least that was quick. As you scrub, you hear about a public feast you're forced to attend. Buckle up. This day's about to get boozy and brutal. You're caked in clay, limping from the pottery workshop, when a merry drunk drags you to a public feast honoring Dionysus. You're thinking, food, finally. But ancient Greek feasts are less buffet and more boozy, pukey chaos. The dining hall is a courtyard packed with sweaty Athenians reclining on couches that smell like wine and feet. You're handed a wreath that's half wilted and a cup of sour wine that could strip paint. The food's a spread of stale bread, fishy paste, and goat bits that look like they fought back. You're starving, but chewing feels like a CrossFit session. If you're a woman, you're stuck serving or banished to the women's quarters, dodging grabs from drunk dudes. You try mingling, but your modern small talk like nice vibes gets you laughed at, and someone chucks a grape at your head. The wine's spiked with weird herbs, and 3 sips in, you're slurring about Netflix to a guy who thinks you're a prophet. The feast turns rowd, dudes are wrestling, poets are yelling, and someone's puking in a corner. You're forced into a drinking game, katabos, but your aim's worse than a blind archer, and you splash a philosopher's beard. Now he's challenging you to a duel. Your toga's a clay-blood wine mess, and your stomach's staging a revolt. As you stumble out, you're roped into a nighttime patrol. Yep, more danger. Hang tight, this day's about to get dark and dicey. You're wobbling from the feast, your stomach churning like a bad Tinder date when a grizzled guard shoves a spear in your hands for a nighttime patrol. Athens needs protection from bandits or Spartan spies, and you're the idiot who drew the short straw. You're thinking, I can't even protect my onion. But there's no opting out. The streets are dark, lit only by flickering torches that smell like burnt hair. You're paired with a grunt who farts louder than he talks, and he's muttering about omens while eyeing your toga like it's cursed. Your spear's heavier than your regrets, and your sandals are slipping on donkey crap. If you're a woman, you're not even here, just stuck praying at home while the men play hero. You're supposed to look tough, but your modern ass is shaking like a leaf, jumping at every shadow. A dog barks, and you nearly stab your own foot. The grunt laughs, calling you onion coward, and now you're dodging his spit. You hear a Russell Bandit? God. Nope, just a drunk pissing on a wall, but your heart's racing like you're in a slasher flick. Lunch was that fishy paste, and it's fighting to escape your guts. Your toga's a biohazard, and your flea bites are a symphony of itch. The patrol drags on, and you're praying for dawn, but the gods are probably betting on your next fuck-up. You collapse on your mat, defeated. Subscribe for more ancient ass-kickings. This shit's not over.